Hey y'all, Tim here. I had a question come up recently, and somebody confided in me that, a musician confided to me that they were afraid that the music that they played at retirement communities wouldn't reach them, that it would be too abstract, too out there. Now, I am here to alleviate that fear and to give you a game plan, because as a musician, it's important to balance what the audience wants to hear with your enjoyment of it. Like if playing a style of music is absolutely like nails on the chalkboard, just grosses you out, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. If you're neutral about it, then you can come up with creative ways to enjoy it even more. And then on the further side of the spectrum, if you completely love it, then that's great. That's like the ideal. Honestly, when I started playing at retirement communities, I was kind of neutral. I was coming out of a jam band background, and I really liked abstract jazz. But I learned very early on at playing at retirement communities that if you played abstract jazz, you'd lose your audience. I mean, that was Louis Armstrong's critique of the bebop era jazz players. Is he said, like, if you lose the melody, you lose the audience. And he was right. Like, bebop became a very niche branch of the jazz tree as a result. And then pop music just continued to evolve as it did with various influences. But in the year 2023, which is where I'm making this video, and you can probably extend this before and after for 5, 7, 10 years plus, the people in retirement communities grew up in 40s, 50s, and the people that grew up in the 60s are starting to retire. There's very different music from in the 60s compared to previous decades. So, to address the topic of, and the fear of, am I going to be too abstract? There needs to be a balancing, and the way that you balance the abstraction, which to me, like, I'm a jazz guy. I like improvising. I like bebop scales. I like alterations. And it needs to be interesting for me for it to be fun. That's kind of like what the entire business / career is predicated on. It has to be fun, it has to be interesting. And I've been able to do those two things because here's why. When I first started making this a career, I made sure that I solicited requests whenever I could. I would be very sort of unassuming and joking and making sure that I could like interact with the audience. And I was humble at the same time too. Now, most recently I've been kind of like in a sort of brooding artist, reserved kind of kick. It's weird. It is what it is, but that's just where I am right now. And I'm exploring that. It might be because I'm into Chopin and he was a little dark and brooding. But anyways, when I was first starting out, I made sure that I took as many requests as I possibly could. And I would learn those melodies. I would literally write them down. I would interrupt the show. But it wasn't, see, the key is it wasn't an interruption, because I would make it fun and funny. I would say, if anybody has a request, let me know. If I know it, I'll play it. If I don't know it, I'll go home and learn it. And everybody would just laugh. But I'd be serious. And then I'd literally go home and learn it. There was one time when I bit my tongue because a lady came at me with 12 pages of Bumble Boogie by Jack Fina. And being true to my word is important to me. And especially important at the time that I was building my reputation in my business. Honestly, I take a little more liberties with that now. And I don't know if that's a good thing. So I'm gonna have to look at that. Like sometimes I'll say I'll learn something, but then I won't say when the time that I'm gonna learn it is, and then I just put it off and put it off. Anyways, truth. So going back to this strategy of taking requests, you take the request, you learn the melody, okay? If you're a jazz piano player and you're worried about being too abstract for these communities, learn the songs that they want to hear. Play the melody, let them sing along, and then solo. Then take the ideas, simple melodies, and add reharmonizations, add different scales and modes and colors to those chords, and take it somewhere. Improvise, explore musically. And then when you're done, take it back to the melody and go through it again. Make it obvious, make it familiar, and that's how you do it. That's how you avoid being too abstract. You have to sandwich it within something that they understand. Now keep in mind, like, if you're a jazzer, especially if you like to dip your toes in or just dive headfirst into free jazz, y'all, the honest truth, retirement communities is not the place for free jazz. It's not. You will not be asked back. You will risk being too loud for them, which is the cardinal sin of playing at retirement communities. If you're too loud, then, I mean, you're hurting them, and they're not going to ask you back. They're going to, the only time I've heard of somebody getting booed off stage at a retirement community is because they were too loud, and they refused to turn down. So don't have an ego. Take feedback gracefully. It can be humbling. And there's some people, too, that have an agenda. Like, they think, oh, there's a musician. I'm going to get him. I know he's going to be too loud, and I'm going to tell him preemptively. And that can be kind of deflate you. Like, yeah, be resilient, but, you know, I still have feelings. Like, when somebody is, like, turned down, it kind of hurts my feelings. But I do it. I play softer. And that can be a challenge, but you gotta do it. You gotta do it. So don't play too loud. And in order to still have fun and to enjoy the artistry of music and the art and the craft of music, sandwich your improvisations and your abstractions with in between two familiar melodies. That's my tip for the day. I hope that helps. Ask me whatever questions you have. Peace.